Welcome to 1850 Main Street, a place where friends get together and talk about their country and hope for a brighter future. Today, Rob Walgate and Alan C. Duncan from the Public Square are joined by David Zanotti, the CEO of the American Policy Roundtable.
Why do they keep talking about iVoters.com on this podcast? Well, do you want to feel like the smartest kid in class or not?
I do have to ask you about where you found that tie.
You know, I thought you might ask me about that, actually. I think
it's like an RFK Jr. tie.
RFK.
You notice he wears like the really skinny
he does wear the skinny
ties?
ones. Yes. I think this is a gift from my brother, actually. I think that's where that's from.
Is that a tie or is that like a napkin holder or what is that? I mean,
I think so. It's a pop of color. I don't know.
Floral. Might have, but it's really skinny.
It is skinny.
Okay, so that's the thing, huh?
I don't know. I mean, mix it up. You mix it up every once in a while.
You've got your own. He's got style. He's the Cosmo Kramer of this clan.
Yes, I'll take it. Well, we talked about Mr. Rogers last time. It was either Mr. Rogers or William F. Buckley. Those guys could wear some clothes.
By the way, I know that just people are here because they want to hear news and importance, and we're going to get to it in just a second.
Not poking fun at my ties.
Did you make it through the Willie Nelson concert?
I did. Oh yeah.
And did you drive home without getting arrested?
I did. I made it.
Okay.
I made it home. Yeah.
But was I right about secondhand smoke would just about knock you out?
Yes. I took the kids. The kids were there too. I mean, it's open air. It's outside. It's if
did
people
you have
know.
to burn their clothes when it was over?
It's going to be amazing 30 years from now when your kids are able to say, I saw Willie Nelson in concert. People are going to be like, there's no way. You did not.
Like Bob Dylan. How do you not go to a Willie Nelson and Bob Dylan show? I mean, Bob Dylan, someone who played on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial before Martin Luther King Jr. spoke. I mean, how do you not take your kids to? It was a historic night. But yeah, Caleb especially. Again, we mentioned before on these broadcasts, Caleb hates the smell of weed, so he was not happy. Yeah, he was hating it by the end.
Did Willie actually play his guitar?
He did.
Well, he plays it hard, doesn't he?
He does.
Really plays it hard.
Trigger, it's called.
It just beats on that guitar.
Well, it has a giant hole in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody type in Willie Nelson guitar trigger and look at it. It's got a giant hole in it.
Yeah.
Like worn away or something.
Good.
I don't know how the hole got there, but
good.
They
and that's a
cranked
great
it.
venue. You were Blossom, right?
Yes.
I mean, it's a great venue. Now, it takes 2 hours to get out of the parking lot, but it's a great venue.
It did. But speaking of mixing.
That was before weed was legal in Ohio.
Yes. Mixing wise, they really cranked the guitar too in the mix. Like it was very noticeable.
Yeah.
So our audio engineer friends will, be interested to know that.
All right. We have a lot of friends. We have a lot of people listening to this program or viewing this broadcast or whichever way that works the first time through. And we need to bring some history to the table. And that's the history of iVoters.com, a la the T-shirt. iVoters.com.
Yeah, let's talk about Rob's clothes for a second.
He's on mission. Okay, there he is. Okay, there he is. All right, he's got it. All right, iVoters.com and why it is helpful and what is it. Back in the days of history when the internet was young and people did not have smartphones, those of us that were in the business of doing voter information publications decided to take the leap to get into an online experience with voter information. And the theory was, what if you could create a program where you could put in your address and up would pop a sample ballot for you that was literally the races that you were going to see on your ballot. As difficult as that is to do today, can you imagine what it was like in 1998?
No, I can't.
We had to pay a lot of money to get people to walk in that experiment because that stuff was not all created. The ability to do it just wasn't easily there.
That would have been absolutely cutting edge at that time.
It was.
Yeah,
it truly was.
Because, even today, we'll run into some races at the state house or state senate level where people, believe it or not, it's hard to believe, they don't have websites. They'll just
Some
have
candidates don't have pictures.
Yeah.
So they actually don't have a good pick.
In 98, I would imagine a number of people wouldn't have websites. Right.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My wife, Joanna, is one of the people on the team that's helping to load information onto the back end of iVoters.com this year. And so I see her working on the spreadsheets and everything. And sometimes she'll just talk to me. She'll say, she'll say, this person's website's so bad. She goes, how can it be 2024 and that's your website? And she'll show me, and it's the creepiest pictures ever. And you're like, did you go to like Olin Mills before? And it was just weird and just text everywhere.
Maybe it's someone that lost like a fantasy football league, and that was the punishment. You have to run.
You have to run, maybe.
You have to run for
Olin Mills professional studio, right?
Yes.
Do you know that there was actually a professional studio when we were kids? The families got pictures of that called Clown Town.
No, I've not heard of this. No.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's true. Clown Town.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but there's some weird stuff out there. So yeah, 98, I can only imagine.
But what an interesting way to get a look at the reality of American representative government at the state level is to actually go and find the fact that some people running for state offices don't have good websites. They don't have, or for state legislative races, they don't have this stuff. So now most of them do today, and it has been a matter of progress.
Well, and that doesn't even, someone might have a bad website, but they could be a good candidate. Sure. You know, it hurts you. You're not maybe running the best campaign, but they might be a great rep, and they just don't have a great site.
The capacity of how this site has grown, and it's tracked everything else. You have more data, less time, more information, less cost. Those things that are supposed to happen in a free market system, they have happened. Now, what AI might do to this, I don't even want to think about. It could be terrifying, because how would AI...
They'll just vote for you. They're like, I know who you're going to vote for.
I mean,
we've seen how AI has answered some questions when people ask.
Yeah.
I mean, we see how the AI has responded to numerous questions when people ask about certain candidates.
We are not using AI in this mechanism.
No.
All right.
No.
So what happens with iVoters is this. You open up your laptop or your phone, and you go and you punch in your address, and what will come up is the homework's done for you. A sample ballot that is basically the races you're going to look at when you go into the polls will pop up, and you'll be able to see the races, and then you'll be able to see the people that are running in those races, and you will be able to do your own research in one stop. It's a one-stop shop. Now, there are chances that because of the research that's been done and what's available, you could go to all kinds of resources in studying these races. You can find out organizations that are for them, against them, where they get their money from, where they went to school. You can get onto their social media sites. You can sort of become, it's not like you're an election stalker, because this is all public information, but you can really go deep on, or you can stop when you're satisfied that you know who these people are. Now, candor, right? Honesty. How many people can name their state rep, their state senator, and their member of the United States House right now off the top of their head? You think about that. If you could take an instantaneous test, maybe 1%, 5%.
I was going to say 3%. I was going to say 3%. I remember getting screamed at one time by someone.
Not here.
In the square in the town in which I reside. And they were lecturing me about something about how we were doing. And this was like 15 years ago. And they referred to the wrong person in their title. I said, oh, that's not their title. And then they just screamed at me some more. And they said, well, that doesn't matter. I'm like, well, it kind of does matter, because you're telling us to call the wrong person because they have nothing to do with that.
Do you know how many times a state rep is called congressman in the course of a week? Happens all the time.
All the time.
People don't. Now, that doesn't mean people are stupid. It just means we're busy. That's our excuse for everything. We're busy. And we don't take the time to create the responsibility to know. But a lot of people want to vote, and they do want to vote with some kind of a clue.
And that's one of my frustrations, though, when I go to all these state capitals is, listen, when you go to these state capitals, most of them are beautiful buildings. Yeah. Beautiful. We don't build things.
There's not an ugly one in the union.
Don't get me started.
We don't build things like that anymore. They're beautiful. But when you go there, it can be such an intimidating process that it keeps people from going there. That's the frustration. I love taking people there for the first time.
Your tax dollars paid for every brick.
Yes, every brick and everybody that's doing their job there. Now, I still think that we should be respectful and we should be there and show decorum, but I think everyone should go and see how the process works, because I think when you go and sit in a committee meeting or see how things operate or get to know the people that are making the decisions, you're going to kind of scratch your head, look around and say, I'm paying the bill for all this, and maybe I should be the one sitting up there because I think I'm smarter than a few people in those chairs making these decisions.
Do you want to know who and what is going to be on your ballot this November? Check out ivoters.com and enter your address and zip code. No name, no phone number, and no email address required. Find out who all the candidates are, who's endorsing them, and who's funding them. We're not bound to any political parties, candidates, or campaigns at iVoters, and we won't tell you who to vote for. You're smart enough to figure that out for yourself. What we will do is give you all the facts and none of the fanfare. Did we mention it's free? Free minds, free speech, free agents. iVoters.com, a public service of the American Policy Roundtable.
Well, and let's look at what we call the grid of involvement. Let's have the imaginary whiteboard right now as far as the grid of involvement. Half the people in most states don't vote. They don't participate. Half the adults who could don't. They're not registered or they just don't participate on a regular basis. No judgment. That's just the number that's real.
Do you think they do that because they don't think that their vote matters?
There's a myriad of answers. There's probably a dozen and then some.
Yeah.
But they don't participate. So that means, number one, your vote now counts twice. It's that much more important. Showing up, you have a bigger voice. It's unfortunate. If you stay home, your vote is your voice and you just lost it. But that means someone else's is more important. That's real. So half of the people who could vote don't. They're not either registered or they don't participate. Of the people who do vote, about 74% of them don't pay much attention to what's going on in the electoral process until it's time for elections. Doesn't make them bad people. About 24% of the people are really paying attention all the time. They're the people that are watching 1850 Main Street right now or listening to 1850 Main Street. And those are the people who basically say, let me get this video, let me get this link, and let me send it to somebody. They're the ones that are paying attention and truly, truly care. And then 1% of the country is basically leading it. Now, these are not numbers that I created. These are numbers that are real. They're sustainable. You can turn them upside down, inside out. It's going to come out the same way. And it's always been that way for as long as anybody can remember. Now, it wasn't that way exactly in the founding, but in most representative republics, about 1% of the people are in the leadership positions just by sheer volume of numbers. Okay. So so you're already twice as big a voice as you thought by showing up. But if you show up informed, that's a whole different game. And if you show up knowledgeable across a wide number of races, from the Statehouse to the White House, and you know exactly where you're going on each of those races, now you are light years ahead of the game. That's why we put iVoters.com together, to put a person into that kind of power curve. It's an empowerment reality. Now, we don't judge who you're going to vote for. We don't tell you who to vote for. And we provide ample information on all sides that we can of the issue that's available. You're going to get to see it all. Make up your own mind.
Yeah. And it's a tool that you can talk to your neighbors about. You can talk to your coworkers about. You can talk to the people at church about. Because you're not telling them what to do or how to do it. Yeah. You're giving them a resource so that they can become smarter when they do it.
Yeah, send the link to your pastor, to your elder board. Send it around to your Bible study group, whatever.
You can send it to your CEO of your company. You send it to your boss, and you can't get in trouble because all you're doing is providing a resource. We've never had somebody come back to us and said, "Wow, I sent this to so-and-so and wrote me back this email blasting me for." Never happened since 1998.
No, and it's not going to happen. And the thing is, well, our team's still working hard on it right now as we record this. We're still filling in data sheets. We're doing all the research behind the scenes to make it a reality. So it'll be at your fingertips very soon.
Big place where iVoters helps is ballot issues, because everybody is a little trepidatious about ballot issues. Why? Because first off, you don't know if yes means yes or yes means no or no means yes. There's always that question. So we put the actual language up for you to read. We put the arguments for and against for you to read so you can make up your own mind and you're ready. So the idea is to make you the smartest kid in the class. So there you are on election day. And we hope that you go and vote on election day. I know everyone's telling you, quote, bank your vote and all that sort of stuff. You vote however you want to. You know, I this year I have to go absentee. I don't have a choice. I'm on assignment. I'll be out of state from where I'm registered to vote. I don't have a choice. I've got to go. Okay. I much prefer voting in person. It makes me feel so American to go and vote in person. It makes me proud.
Yeah, there is something about it, being surrounded by your neighbors.
I'm doing it. I know it's just a little thing compared to everything we get in this country, but at least I did something.
You know what we've started doing at our house too is, again, I know voting for some can be an intimidating process. It's new. We've started taking our kids with us when we vote so that they can see the process. So when they become old enough to vote, they're like, oh, I've been here before. I know how to do this. I've seen mom and dad.
Kids know that he did his homework. See, he goes in.
What a good example.
They're walking to all these other people. These people are taking like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They're scratching their head. They're looking around. Rob walks in with iVoters on his phone. Boom, 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 boom. He's done.
Well, and in many communities across, the country, maybe you live in a town where you know someone on city council or school board or someone you will be voting for. So that's another thing. Like kids get excited about that when they're like, it becomes real to them because they see someone's name they know on the ballot when they're looking and they're like, oh, that's cool.
Well, that brings up another point that I know some people are so upset about the top of the ticket that they say, I'm not even voting. Okay. If you don't want to vote top of the ticket, at least please check out what's at the bottom of the ticket, down the ticket, because there's other stuff that's going to be very important for you and your neighbors.
And it could have far more influence on your life than who the next president is.
Yes.
It really does work that way. So iVoters from the Statehouse up. Now, why don't we get to more races? We will eventually, by God's grace, if we have the resources to be able to do it. That's going to take more people and more money because it's hard to get down to all of those other races. We're working on it.
We are working on it. We're working hard on it. And it can be difficult too, as we mentioned. And everyone paid attention to the presidential primaries, and those were all held in the spring or early summer. Well, Florida just had their legislative primary in August. Tennessee, August.
Some in September.
Some in September.
Yeah, and we're trying to get up from the State House to the White House by September 30th. And this is strange. So early voting hasn't made this any easier, but we're meeting deadlines for early voting. We've backed up and we're doing the real stuff. So iVoters.com, it's fast, it's free. We do not data mine. You go on to iVoters and get off of iVoters. We don't know you came.
Yeah,
an address came.
Yeah.
An inquiry from an address came and the product went out for free. But we can't come back and get to you.
And no ads. You're not going to have to constantly try to click off X out of an ad.
In America that has no ads?
How do you monetize that?
Yeah, how do you monetize it? No, iVoters.com. We're not using that. And some may say, why do you need my exact house number? We do, because you could have someone living on your street, way down the street, that has a different member of Congress than you, depending on where the line's drawn.
Every year, it's the same thing. We find out there are a whole lot of people who live on one side of the street of the other side of the district or back and forth. And that's tough. And we find out how many, so your address specifically is very important to get you in the right spot.
That's why we need it. That's the only reason we need it, is to make sure that you're able to have accurate info.
Final point, who pays for it? People who care about good citizenship pay for it. And we do not take money from political parties. We don't take money from candidates, and we're not carrying any big sugar daddy loaves around here because somebody else was so enamored by this that they told us to do it. We've done this to meet a need that we all feel.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.